quantitative big imaging. This is a tutorial which is added to lecture 10. It is not mandatory for the material, but I hope it's helpful anyway. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to work with Git repositories. And the first thing we need to do is to create a repository. So if you have created your own GitHub account, then you will see some view that is similar to what I have here. The important thing is you have new repository button. So clicking there, I should get a new view. And here you get some information that needs to be filled in. And in this case, I'm just call it QBI tutorial. Oh, not LB, QBI. So, and just call it test repository. And then you can select if it's public or private. And this time I say it's public. You can also add a README file that describes what the repository is about. And that is displayed then when you enter the repository page at some point. Another option you can add on is a git ignore. And when you write different programs, etc., there are files that you don't want really to get added to a repository, and then you can add those. It can be temporary files and notebook background files, etc. So we can go here and select Python, and there we got it. You can also select the license. I don't do it for this tutorial. And then we do create repository, and then we see our new repository. It's actually in the imaging lectures, and you can see here we have a QBI tutorial, and it's called test repository. Going in here, we have a git ignore and a README file, and README file is actually just what's said down here. Git ignore, if we click on that one, you can see that there is a lot of different file extensions that are expected to be ignore, so that helps us later. So that was creating and reviewing. So let's take a look at the next step. So here I have opened a terminal. This is now on a Mac. On Linux, you have exactly the same workflow. However, on Windows, it may be a little bit different, but the commands are the same. And you can actually also open, if you have installed Git on your computer, you can actually also open a Git bash terminal, and then the commands are exactly the same as you see what I'm using. So the first step is I want to go to somewhere where I want to download our repository. So I have a nice place called Playground. Whoops. No, Playground. So that's why. So, and in this, I want to fetch my repository that we have created. And that is done by going here on the GitHub page, click on the code, and then you can just copy URL to clipboard. I'm doing that. And to get the repository to your local computer, then you type git clone and paste the path to the repository. And then we get some feedback, and now we should have it in here. Now, if I do ls, that is list the contents of the folder, you will see a lot of things, but the important thing is we have the QBI tutorial just right here. So let's enter that and go in to the repository. So cd, change directory, and QBI tutorial. And if I now check what is in here, we only see the readme.md. The reason we only see readme.md is that on Linux system, the dot in front of git ignore means it's a hidden file. So we can actually do ls-la, and then we see which files are actually in the repository on this level. So we have readme, we have git ignore, and then we have a folder called git. Never ever think about going into that one, because that is the part that Git uses to store the changes and everything. If you go in there, you will have problem. So just avoid it. On Windows, you may even see it because Windows don't recognize the dot as a hidden file. But always think about never touch the .git folder. So that was it for this step. And now we want to add a file to this repository. Just want to clear the screen. So we have a new page. Oh, that was a bit too fast. So that was it. So the first thing is we want to create a file, and in this example, I'm not going to make much about it. So I create a file, and one way of doing it is creating mycode.py. Touch is in principle just creating the file, an empty file. So if we now look at the contents, we already have the file in here. Now if I look at the GitHub page and try to refresh, nothing happens. We are still having the same thing here. So now let's see what is happening. First, we use a command called git status just to see what we have. And now it tells you that we are on branch main. I'm coming to branches later. And that this branch is up to date with origin main, which is the online version. What it also tells us is that we have untracked files, and here we find mycode.py. So the first thing we need to do to register the file so that Git knows about it and wants to track it is to do git add mycode. And if we now would type git status, then you see that from untracked file, this mycode has changed to new file. So we are one step on the way. Still, if we would try to send something to back to the server, nothing would happen. What we need to do is actually also tag it as a change, and that we do by using the commit command. So here we have git commit, and then we do mycode, and also we want to type a message, added mycode, for example, and enter. And now if I would look at the status, it says we are still on branch, and it says now the branch is ahead instead of update as we had before of origin by one commit. Now we want to try to send it, because still if I look at what is on the repository still doesn't know what is going on. So now we need to do git push, and then it shows some writing and communication information, and now it pushes main to main in this repository. Now if I would refresh, you can see my code is here, and that confirms that we actually uploaded it to the main branch on GitHub. So that was adding and sending a single file to the repository, and the next step is to get some changes, updating, see what happened on the repository lately. So now I'm doing something that you usually shouldn't do. So I'm editing the file on the repository. Going in here, we see that the file is empty. Then you can go in here and just type hello and commit these changes and commit. And now you see that this file contains hello. If I now look at what is in the my code file, we can use a command called cat and look at my code, and nothing is there, as we expect, because we haven't done any pulling from the repository. So my computer doesn't know what is happening on GitHub. So what we need to do is to add the file, or actually fetch the latest changes, and that we do with the help of git pull. And then we see there is some transfer, and we see that, my code has changed. And now if we do cat my code, we see hello, which is exactly what we would expect. And now we know that we are up to date with what's happening on the repository. So next step is, now usually when you write your programs, you should work with something called branches, and that is like side tracks of your main development. And it's quite dangerous to change directly on your main code, because if you change something too much, then all of a sudden it can happen that you introduce a bug and you have a very hard time to fix it, and the next day you really need that code and you don't know how to get back. So the trick is, when you try new things or fixing a bug, is to create a branch. So creating a branch, you do, first maybe we make clean again. Clear, sorry. So, and now we use a new command, git checkout -b new idea. So, and it reports switch to branch, new idea. And if I look now at what branches I have, branch, and then I see I have two branches. I have main and I have new idea. And the asterisk tells us that we are right now on new idea. So in this branch, I want to add a new file. And let's see, let's do a touch, more code.py. So again, we just create an empty file. We don't care much about what's really in there. And then we do the same thing again, git add more code, git commit more code.py, and we give it a message, more code added. Okay, it's added, and if we look what we have, we now have the readme, my code, and we also have added more code.py. So this looks like we have everything right now, and we have started developing something new, but we want to go back to the main track. And that we do by, again, git checkout and main. So now it says switch to branch main, and if we do ls now we don't have more code anymore, because that was development that you did in the previous branch. And now you see that every time you switch between branches, you get exactly the state that you had in the other branch, and not in the one you came from. And let's go back again. with git checkout. And note here, first time when I used the git checkout, I used the -b, which means create new branch. Now we don't need to create it because it already exists. So now we can just go to git checkout new idea and we do ls and we see, yes, there it is. So now we have committed and changed everything that we want. And now we want to push this to the main repository or to the remote repository. So same as we did before, we do git push and let's see what happens. Now we got an error message. The reason is that the server doesn't know really yet that you have this new branch. So what we need to do is to use this command, and it's always suggested, so you can just copy paste here. So let's copy it and paste it, and now it also worked. So what is the consequence on the server repository? Let's just reload the page and go to the main place. So first of all, it tells that, yep, you had a new idea which was pushed recently. And now if we look at this combo box, you see you have different branches, and the main, as you can see, still only has my code. And if you switch to new idea, then you have more code also. So everything is as it is on my local computer. So now you are ready to take the next step. You say more code is really what you want to have, and you want to bring it back into the main. First, we do as we did before, git checkout, new idea, but this time, let's just check where we are. Git branch. We are already on new idea, so that is not needed to change. Then I usually also do a safety commit, so git commit, just in case there are changes locally that we need to add. Now, before I always just set a single file. -a means take all changes and bring them into this commit. I also previously used the -m to give the message. But if you don't provide the -m, then you come into, oh, there is nothing to commit. Okay, so that didn't do much. But anyway, then you would come to a default editor. And unfortunately, I think at least, the default editor in Git is VI, a very old editor, text on the command line, and I think it dates back to the 70s even, in the first Unix systems. So it's not the easiest editor to work with. So now in the beginning, I recommend actually that you provide your message with a -m and some string. Later you can also find out how to change this editor, but I'm leaving that for now. So now we do a git merge with main, because now it could have happened that someone has changed the code remotely, and you must be sure that you actually also get that one. And to be really good, you should actually even do git checkout main git pull, just to fetch the latest changes. Then we do again git check out new idea, and now we can do the git merge with main. And now nothing really happened because I didn't do any changes neither locally nor remotely, so nothing happens here. But it could be that you get a list of failed merging, and then you have to resolve these conflicts. That can be a quite tricky task sometimes, but it's doable. It tells which files were conflicted, and in the files you have a suggestion what was in the first edit and what was in the second edit, and then it helps you to guide. Also, these texts give you an idea what to select. And once you have fixed all those, then you're good to go with the merge. So now we were happy, and we should also do a git commit -a again, just for all the changes from the merge. And of course, everything is good. And then we do a git push to send everything to the server. Everything is up to date, so nothing happened. And now we can look here on the GitHub, and it says, yeah, you pushed 5 minutes ago, you pushed this new idea branch, compare and do pull request. So this is one way how you can do the merge, or else, so actually the same thing would happen if you press this menu item. Let's click here, and then it says new pull request. So this is the administration behind merging into the master or the main. And here you add a title, what was actually added in this merge. And then you do create pull request. You can also write a little bit more here if you are in the mood and want to describe more exactly what you want to merge. Then you do create pull request, and then it checks and says, okay, there are no conflicts. Shouldn't be, because we already did over here. We did the merging and fixing all conflicts. So this should be a quite clean pull request. And then we do merge pull request and confirm merge. And then it says successfully merged and closed. Now we go back to the code again, and we see that more code has now been also added to the tutorial main branch. And this is the very basic workflow. There are many things that I haven't told you today, but at least it gives you an idea how to work with Git and branches, creating your new repository, and so on. Thank you for listening.